Here is something that will stop you mid-thought. Two scientists sitting in a genetics lab in California looked at the biological data from a group of adults over 60 and found something they did not expect. The people in this group were aging at different speeds, not slightly different, dramatically different. Some of them, despite being the same chronological age, had bodies that functioned a full decade younger at the cellular level, and when researchers traced the difference back to its origin, it led to something so simple, so brief, so easy to do that even the scientists themselves were initially skeptical. Not a drug, not a supplement, not a grueling exercise. Routine, a 2-minute daily habit. And today I want to walk you through exactly what that means for your body, why it works, and how you can start using it starting tonight. My name is Dr. William Lee. I am a physician, scientist, and the author of Eat to Beat Disease. My work centers on understanding how the body heals itself at the biological level, and I have spent years studying the intersection of genetics, aging, and lifestyle. What I am going to share with you today is not theory, it is grounded in real biology, emerging genetic science, and a growing body of research that is fundamentally changing how we understand what it means to grow old. If you are someone who is over 60, or if you love someone who is, this conversation matters deeply. So stay with me because what comes next changes the picture entirely. And before we go further, if you find value in science-based health information explained in a way that actually makes sense, you are in the right place. This channel, BioSecrets, exists for exactly that purpose. Hit subscribe so you never miss what we uncover next. Now, let me ask you something. When you hear the word aging, what comes to mind? Most people think about it as something passive, something that just happens to you, like the weather. You wake up, years pass, your body declines, and at some point you accept that the mirror reflects a version of you that is slower, stiffer, and more fragile than before. Most of the medical world for a long time operated under a similar assumption. Aging was considered inevitable, linear, and largely fixed by your genetics. You were dealt a hand and you played it out. But here is where the science is asking us to pause and completely reconsider. Because what geneticists are now discovering is that biological age, the actual age of your cells, your tissues, and your organs, is not the same as the number on your birthday cake. And more importantly, it is not fixed. It is dynamic. It responds to inputs. It responds to behavior. It responds to daily choices in ways that can shift the biological clock in your favor, sometimes dramatically. To understand why a 2-minute habit can actually influence this, we need to go one level deeper into something called epigenetics. Your DNA is your genetic blueprint. It contains the instructions for every protein your body makes, every system it runs, every repair mechanism it has available. But here is the part most people never hear about. Having the instruction does not always mean the instruction is being read. Inside every one of your cells, there is a layer of chemistry sitting on top of your DNA, like a series of dimmer switches, deciding which genes get turned on loudly, which ones get turned down quietly, and which ones get effectively silenced. This layer is called the epigenome, and unlike your DNA, which is largely fixed from birth, your epigenome is incredibly sensitive to your environment and your behavior. This is where it gets important. Scientists have developed something called epigenetic clocks. These are biological measurement tools that analyze specific chemical markers on your DNA called methylation patterns and use them to calculate how old your cells actually are, independent of your chronological age. The most well-known of these is the Horvath clock, developed by Dr. Steve Horvath at UCLA and later refined into tools like the Grimmage and Dunedin pace clocks, which measure not just biological age but the actual pace at which your body is aging right now. What researchers discovered using these clocks is something remarkable. People of the same age, say 65, can have biological ages that range anywhere from 52 to 78, and the difference is largely explained not by their genetics, but by their epigenetic patterns, the chemical switches on their DNA, which means this is not fate. This is biology that responds to how you live. Now here is where the 2-minute habit enters the picture, and I want to be precise with you because this is the part where people sometimes expect magic, and what I am going to offer you is better than magic. It is mechanism. It is biology you can actually trust. One of the most powerful and least discussed regulators of your epigenetic clock is your nervous system state. Specifically, the balance between your sympathetic nervous system, which is your stress response, and your parasympathetic nervous system, which governs rest, repair, and regeneration. When your sympathetic system is chronically activated, which is extremely common in adults over 60 due to accumulated life stress, health concerns, sleep disruption, and anxiety. It triggers a cascade of epigenetic changes that accelerate aging. Inflammation increases, telomeres shorten faster, DNA repair enzymes become less active, the biological clock speeds up. But when you deliberately activate the parasympathetic nervous system, something different happens. Gene expression shifts, anti-inflammatory pathways are upregulated, repair mechanisms become more available, and studies using epigenetic clocks have shown that consistent, intentional activation of the parasympathetic state can literally slow and in some cases partially reverse biological aging as measured by these molecular markers. The 2-minute habit that geneticists and longevity researchers are pointing to is a specific form of controlled breathing. And before you skip past this because you have heard about breathing before, let me show you why this is fundamentally different from what you think it is, and why the science behind it is far more specific and compelling than the general idea of deep breathing. The technique that has the most robust scientific backing for epigenetic and longevity effects is called resonance breathing, sometimes called coherent breathing. It involves breathing at a very specific rate, approximately 5 to 6 breath cycles per minute. A breath cycle means 1 inhale and 1 exhale at a normal resting rate. Most adults breathe between 12 and 18 times per minute. Resonance breathing slows this to around 5 to 6. Typically, this means inhaling for about 5 seconds and exhaling for about 5 seconds in a smooth and continuous rhythm. Here is why this specific rate matters. At 5 to 6 breath cycles per minute, your breathing frequency aligns almost perfectly with the natural oscillation frequency of your cardiovascular system. This creates a phenomenon called heart rate variability coherence. Your heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing all begin to pulse in a synchronized, wave-like pattern. This synchrony sends a powerful signal to your brain through the vagus nerve, the longest nerve in your body, which runs directly from your brainstem down through your heart, lungs, and digestive organs. The vagus nerve is the primary communication highway of the parasympathetic nervous system. When resonance breathing activates it, the effect is like flipping a master switch in your body's chemistry. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone that accelerates cellular aging, begins to drop. Interleukin-6 and other inflammatory markers decrease. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that supports brain cell health and repair, increases, and critically, activity in the genes associated with DNA repair and cellular maintenance goes up. A clinical study published in the journal Frontiers in Human Neuroscience demonstrated that regular practice of slow, coherent breathing significantly improved heart rate variability, reduced inflammatory biomarkers, and improved functional measures of health in older adults. Research from the HeartMath Institute has shown that even brief sessions of heart coherence breathing can shift immune system function, improve hormonal balance, and alter the expression of genes involved in immune regulation within minutes of practice. 2 minutes, done consistently, every day, that is the threshold, not because 2 minutes is a magic number, but because this practice, done daily at the right rhythm, gradually trains your nervous system to spend more time in the parasympathetic state throughout the entire day, not just during the 2 minutes you are practicing. Over weeks and months, this training effect accumulates, and the epigenetic consequences of that accumulated shift are measurable in the cells. Let me give you another layer of why this works, because understanding the biology makes it easier to commit to something this simple. Inside every one of your cells, there is an organelle called the mitochondria. You may know it as the powerhouse of the cell, but mitochondria do more than produce energy. They are deeply involved in regulating the epigenome. When your cells are chronically under stress, mitochondrial function declines, energy production becomes less efficient, free radical output increases, and those free radicals directly damage the epigenetic markers on your DNA, accelerating the biological aging process. Controlled resonance breathing improves mitochondrial efficiency. It does this through 2 pathways. First, by reducing the cortisol-driven inflammation that impairs mitochondrial function. Second, by improving oxygen delivery to tissues through the enhanced circulation that comes with cardiovascular coherence. Better mitochondrial function means cleaner energy production, less oxidative damage, and a more stable epigenome. Each of these effects feeds directly into a slower biological clock. Now let me tell you something that is especially relevant for those of you who are 60 or older. There is a concept in aging biology called the inflammaging hypothesis, a combination of the words inflammation and aging. As we get older, our immune system gradually shifts into a state of low-grade chronic inflammation, even in the absence of infection or injury. This slow burn of inflammation is one of the most powerful drivers of biological aging, and it is a major factor in the development of conditions like cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, type 2 diabetes, and osteoporosis. What makes inflammaging so insidious is that it feeds back on itself. Chronic stress promotes inflammation. Inflammation disrupts sleep. Disrupted sleep worsens stress regulation. Worse stress regulation promotes more inflammation. It is a loop, and once you are past 60, this loop tends to be running in the background almost constantly for most people. The coherent breathing practice I described interrupts this loop at the neurological level. By activating the vagus nerve and shifting the nervous system toward parasympathetic dominance, it directly suppresses the inflammatory cytokines associated with inflammaging. It does this partly through the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway, a signaling route discovered by researchers at Feinstein Institutes for Medical Research, in which vagal nerve activity instructs immune cells called macrophages to reduce their production of inflammatory molecules. When you breathe in coherence, you are quite literally signaling your immune system to calm its inflammatory response. There is also a profound effect on telomeres, the protective caps at the ends of your chromosomes that function somewhat like the plastic tips at the end of a shoelace. Every time a cell divides, telomeres get a little shorter. When they become too short, the cell stops functioning properly or dies. Telomere length is one of the most widely studied biological markers of aging. What research from Dr. Elisa Eppel at UCSF and her collaborators has shown is that chronic psychological stress accelerates telomere shortening, while mind-body practices that reliably activate the parasympathetic nervous system are associated with longer telomere length and even increased activity of an enzyme called telomerase, which helps rebuild and maintain telomere length. This means that the daily coherent breathing practice is not only reducing inflammation and improving mitochondrial function, it is also actively protecting and potentially lengthening the very structures at the tips of your chromosomes that determine how well your cells continue to function as you age. I want to make sure you know exactly how to do this correctly because the precision of the rhythm matters. Here is how you practice resonance breathing. You can do it seated, lying down, or even standing, though seated is easiest for most people starting out. You do not need any special equipment, app, or guide, though tools exist. If you find them helpful, you simply inhale through your nose for a count of 5 seconds. Then you exhale through your nose or mouth slowly for a count of 5 seconds. That is one full breath cycle. Repeat this continuously for 2 minutes. That gives you 12 full breath cycles in those 2 minutes. During this time, try to keep your breathing smooth, not forced. The inhale and exhale should flow into each other without a hard pause at the top or bottom. It should feel almost like a gentle wave rising and falling in an unbroken rhythm. If 5 seconds feels too long or too short, you can adjust slightly, but the goal is to stay close to that 5 to 6 breath cycle per minute rate, as that is the physiologically significant range for inducing coherence. The best time to do this, based on research into nervous system rhythms and cortisol patterns, is within the first 30 minutes of waking up in the morning. Cortisol naturally peaks shortly after waking, a phenomenon called the cortisol awakening response, and this peak sets the inflammatory tone for your entire day. Practicing coherent breathing during this window helps moderate that peak and establish a lower inflammatory baseline for the following hours. A secondary practice before sleep is also beneficial and can meaningfully improve sleep quality and overnight cellular repair. Now, if you are thinking this sounds almost too straightforward to do what I am describing, I understand that reaction completely. We live in a world where we are conditioned to believe that health solutions must be complicated, expensive, or physically demanding to be effective. But cellular biology does not follow the rules of marketing. It follows the rules of chemistry, and chemistry responds to the signals your body sends, not to the effort or cost involved in sending them. That said, I want to be honest with you about something. Coherent breathing is not a replacement for the full picture of lifestyle medicine. It works with far greater power when it is combined with the other inputs your epigenome needs to shift in a healthy direction. Sleep is one of the most powerful epigenetic regulators we know of. During deep, slow-wave sleep, your brain clears neurotoxic waste products through a system called the glymphatic system. Your body conducts the majority of its cellular repair, and your epigenetic markers are actively reset toward healthier patterns. Chronic sleep deprivation has been shown to accelerate biological aging by several years in adults over 60. The coherent breathing practice, especially when done before bed, can improve sleep onset, increase slow-wave sleep time, and help you get the biological repair your cells are waiting for. Nutrition is another pillar. Your epigenome is directly influenced by the molecules that come from the food you eat. Certain compounds found in whole foods act as what scientists call epigenetic nutrients, molecules that directly interact with the enzymes that place and remove methylation marks on your DNA. Folate found in dark leafy greens, sulforaphane from broccoli sprouts and cruciferous vegetables, resveratrol in grape skins and berries, quercetin in apples and onions, omega-3 fatty acids in fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel. Each of these has demonstrated in peer-reviewed research the ability to favorably influence epigenetic patterns associated with healthier, slower aging. Polyphenols, the natural plant pigments and compounds found in colorful foods like blueberries, dark chocolate, extra virgin olive oil, and green tea, deserve special mention here. These compounds interact with your epigenome through multiple pathways, including direct inhibition of inflammatory gene expression and activation of longevity-associated genes called sirtuins. Sirtuins are proteins that regulate cellular health, DNA repair, and mitochondrial function, and they are among the most active areas of longevity research today. Foods rich in polyphenols naturally support certain activity in a way that no single synthetic compound has yet been able to replicate. Movement also matters, but not in the way the fitness industry often frames it. Long, grinding workouts can actually be counterproductive for adults over 60 if they become a source of additional physiological stress. What the research consistently supports instead is a combination of moderate aerobic movement, meaning brisk walking, cycling or swimming for 20 to 30 minutes most days, combined with resistance or strength training at least 2 days per week. The resistance training component is particularly important for aging biology because it stimulates the production of muscle-derived hormones called myokines, which have been shown to reduce inflammation, support brain health, and improve mitochondrial function, all of which connect directly to biological aging. Social connection and a sense of meaning or purpose are not soft lifestyle factors. They are epigenetically significant. Research from the field of social genomics, notably the work of Dr. Steve Cole at UCLA, has shown that loneliness and social isolation trigger a predictable shift in gene expression that upregulates inflammation and suppresses antiviral immune function. Conversely, a strong sense of purpose and meaningful social bonds are associated with gene expression patterns that support immune health, anti-inflammatory function, and cellular longevity. This is real biology, not philosophy. Let me tie all of this together in a way that makes it feel concrete and actionable rather than overwhelming. The biological age gap, that 10-year difference the geneticists observed between people of the same chronological age, was not caused by one enormous thing. It was built slowly, daily, by the accumulation of small inputs that either support or undermine the epigenome. The cortisol that runs unchecked every morning, the sleep cut short by anxiety, the inflammatory food choices made in haste, the social isolation that comes with retirement or loss. These are not just lifestyle choices. They are biological signals that your epigenome is reading and responding to every single day. The 2-minute coherent breathing habit is not the only thing that matters, but it is a remarkable entry point because it is the one thing that can touch nearly every downstream system. It lowers cortisol, it reduces inflammation, it improves sleep quality, it activates the vagus nerve, it improves mitochondrial function, it modulates immune gene expression, and it is available to you right now without any equipment, any prescription, or any special condition. You can start tonight. What I find most compelling about this moment in science is not just the discovery itself. It is what the discovery implies. For most of human history, we assumed the trajectory of aging was a one-way road. You aged, and there was no meaningful reversal available to ordinary people outside of speculation and wishful thinking. But epigenetics has redrawn that map completely. The biological age data from these genetic clocks is telling us something revolutionary. The body at 60, 65, 70, and beyond still has the capacity to shift its molecular profile in a younger direction when given the right signals consistently. The cellular machinery for repair is still there. The genes for anti-inflammatory function are still in your DNA. The enzymes for DNA maintenance are still present. What changes with age is how loudly these systems are speaking. And that volume, that gene expression level, is precisely what epigenetic inputs, including your daily breathing, practice, your food choices, your sleep, and your sense of connection, are capable of turning up. Your body is not a fixed machine running down on a fixed timeline. It is a dynamic, responsive biological system that is listening to you every single day. The question is what you are telling it. I would love to know where you are starting from. Drop a comment below and tell me, how old are you, and have you ever thought about your biological age as something separate from your chronological age? This conversation in the comments is where some of the most interesting exchanges happen on this channel, and I read them. Your question or thought might be exactly what someone else needed to see today. If you found this valuable, and I genuinely hope you did, please share this video with someone you care about who is navigating the second half of life. A parent, a sibling, a close friend. The information we covered today is the kind that deserves to travel beyond an algorithm. It deserves to reach a real person sitting somewhere, wondering whether it is too late to make a difference for their health. It is not too late. The science is clear on that. And if you are not yet subscribed to BioSecrets, this is a good moment. We bring you this kind of deep, evidence-based health science regularly explained in the way it should be explained, clearly, honestly, and in a way that leaves you with something genuinely useful. Subscribe and stay close to this channel. There is a great deal more to uncover together.